Welcome to the Sideline. I'm Andy Katz. Well, this is going to be a home for a lot of original content in college sports and beyond. Now, of course, you're going to get a lot of that similar content that I produce for NCAA platforms, Big Ten Network, and other places. But I needed a home for a lot of those interviews with the newsmakers in this space. So where are you going to find it? Right here at the Sideline. Let's get to it. And welcome everyone to an off-season chat. I'm Andy Katz, pleased to be joined by a good friend, one of the best, and I think a future Hall of Famer, Rick Barnes, head coach of Tennessee. And Rick, yet again, I was at the NBA draft a couple weeks ago in New York, and a couple of Tennessee guys go late in the second round. Players that you have developed, you and your staff. And this seems to be a constant trend. I don't care where you've been, Mason, Clemson, Providence, Texas, Tennessee. You guys always get the best and most out of your talent. What is it about the way you run your program and the staffs that you've built that continue to do that?
You know, Andy, when you think about every player that we coach, you sit down with them as we would do and say, what are your goals? Every player that we've ever coached would say their goal is to make it to the NBA. And we both know how difficult that is. And so with that said, we're not going to be the kind of staff that's going to say, well, you understand the odds are against you, because we have seen a guy like Kevin Durant. It didn't matter where he went to school. He was going to be the one or two pick, should have been the number one pick. But you take guys like Chaz Lanier, Jemai Meshack, I could go Royale Ivy, I could get PJ Tucker, guys that weren't quote unquote McDonald's All-Americans and ranked in the top 175 in some cases, go out and prove that they belong in that league. And you ask me how we do it, they do it. It's something within their DNA that I wish that we could bottle and sell to every player that we ever coach, which we can't do. But would say this, we've always prided ourselves in trying to have, and everybody talks about it, the best staff in the country, the best, whatever your culture is, and to be the most consistent program in the country. But we don't want to be the ones to tell a young person, you can't go after your dream. So with that said, we're not going to put them in a box. We're going to push them. We're going to try to get them to understand maybe the most important thing is being in elite shape. You talk about Jemai Meshack, Zakai Ziegler. People called us about him, and I got a text today from a guy that's up in Detroit, and he said to me, he said, "I'm up here I was invited as a guest coach." He said, "Without question, your two guys are in better shape and play harder than anybody here." And I think it's an everyday thing. I think that's what we try to get done every day. Whatever we do, we're going to do it hard as a staff. But it starts with the players, because if we could do it for one, we would do it for all of them. But we can't, because not all of them are built the same way.
But there is something to be said for, especially in this new portal era, seeing someone and saying, okay, here's where they are. I can, and our staff can take them to that next level if they want to buy in. And look at the last 2 years, Dalton Connect and Chaz Lanier.
And you know what? Two totally different personalities.
Yes, but I mean, the track record is there. Back-to-back years, all league players, NBA players. I fully expect Chaz to make it, but obviously I know he's not there yet technically. So what are you seeing when you're scanning the portal?
Well, I think this. We knew we wanted somebody to shoot the ball. We all want it. I mean, the numbers. There's a lot of things that change in our game in some ways, but there's the game, the fundamentals and all are still what they were 50, 60, 70 years ago. But numbers don't lie, okay? They don't change. I mean, mathematically, Chaz Lanier, everywhere he'd been, he had shot the ball well. So had Dalton. And so when he got here, it's pretty clear the role that we defined for him. This is what we need to do. You remember this year, everybody, I think, paused when I said I took Chaz Lanier out because he didn't shoot the ball, and that's what we're paying him to do. And the fact of the matter is, whether I could have said that whether he was getting paid his own scholarship, but the fact is, we want to clearly define roles of players, and both of those guys, we knew we needed them to be guys that could shoot the ball, and they both went about it in their own different way. And I would say what they both had in common because they both said it to us during the recruiting process. I want to be coached. Both of them said that. And they knew coming here because we're very transparent. We said this is how we do it. And it's not for everybody. And if it's not a daily commitment to you, you don't want to be a part of this because I don't think you can mix a lot of mediocre motivation with high level motivation. Something's got to give. And so we're not going, if you're thinking mediocre, it's not going to work here. But both of those guys came in with the attitude, we want to be coached. We know it's going to be hard, but so what they were basically doing was admitting to themselves they've got more in the tank and they know they can do more. They just want to see in the time here that we can help get it out of them.
So, who's next on the roster that could be that next Connect Lanier?
Well, I don't think it has anything to do with the portal, but obviously Nate Ament. When you look at Nate and what he does,
Now he's a freshman. Yep.
but his talent level is extraordinary, obviously. But again, I will go back to both Chaz and Dalton and Nate. Certainly, it's not about them. They want to be the best they can be. Both of those guys, again, both of those guys said, never been to an NCAA tournament. They want to be a part of a program that's going to get to that tournament, and they want to have their time and know that they were a part of it. And Nate is here. And I will tell you that expectations on him will be just as high, probably higher in some ways. But it's up to us as a staff because he's not as mature physically. If you look at Chaz, I mean, Chaz is a big guy. You don't realize it until you're up close against him because we've got a pretty big group of guys out there most of the time. So is, Dalton was pretty much developed. So Nate is starting to really develop his body. I can see it now. I can see me personally, I see him every day, the transformation. And also Jacoby Gillespie. You never know really what all you're going to get until you get it and live with it every day.
And he had a great year in Maryland.
He did. And they did a great job with him, but he's from here, obviously. He wanted to get back home, and he's got a chance to be, I think, special, obviously. And those two guys together we're counting on them, obviously. But we still have a lot of guys on our team, like you started out with Jemiah Mashak, Chaz, guys that weren't highly recruited the way they did. We got a point guard on our team, Troy Anderson, that went to Fordham when that situation changed there. He called and wanted to come here, and we're excited. We think he's got a great future here, and we feel like we've got a team. Cade Phillips wasn't highly recruited, and he's going to play a big role for us. JP Estrella, those kind of guys have really been the key to what we've been able to do in terms of maintaining our consistency.
You've been to a Final Four at Texas. You've knocked on the door many times here at Tennessee, but there's been heartache and heartbreak in the tournament. How much of it is just some bad luck, bad matchups that you guys have gotten right on that doorstep in what's, if I'm not mistaken, this has been 11 years already. I think has it been 11 years already? It's like flying by with you in Knoxville.
Yeah. Wendy, I mean, you've been around the game a long time too, and you said it, matchups, luck. It's a little bit of all that, but I will tell you, there have been teams, for instance, that we've had just getting to the tournament was a win. I mean, I bet if we went back and looked, we probably had 7, 8, 9, 10 teams that weren't even considered a tournament team at the start of the season, and we got in and had that tough 8, 9 seed or somewhere there, and then I look at our team this year. For this last two teams to go back to back, Elite Eights is special, and I will say this to you: when we started the year, we knew that our biggest matchup concern would be if we went up against a big front line. And 2 years ago, Zach Edey, and had his way with us, and we'd played him a bunch, and then you go back to last year, and I tell everybody that I think the two best front lines in college basketball played for the national championship last year. We happened to hit Houston, and I was in a discussion today with a couple of my coaches about the mid-range game. The percentages don't work. And I said, well, it's hard for me to buy into the fact that whatever works in the NBA doesn't work here because they got the best players in the world. And I think it's a totally different game. And they asked me the question, why? I said, for no other reason. People don't realize they play 48 minutes. We play 40, and their games get over quicker than ours. Think about it, because they play so much faster, so much quicker, the movement's going and all this, and they got the best players. But I just look at the tournament, the goals to get there every year. You don't ever take it for granted. And when you get there, I promise you, I mean, I've lost in the first round, second round, third round. I've never lost in the last game, and it's devastating, even because it's a finality that you know it's over with. And so, again, you've been around it, you know it as well as I do that matchups have something to do with it. Sometimes you limp into that thing, and you're just hoping that maybe you catch some magic in a bottle. Sometimes you go in riding as high as you want, and you get a tough matchup. You get a break, you get a bad break here or there. Like Sean Miller was kidding me about it. We got beat in the NCAA tournament one year when the game would have been over if the referee hadn't have made a 5 second count. And he was a Pac-10. He's a Pac-10 official. Sean's at Arizona, and he goes three chops and calls 5 seconds. And if you go back and look, the entire time out, Sean was in his ear the entire time. And so those are the things, to be honest with you, that when you look back on it, that really bother you, because where like I'm sitting there thinking to myself, instead of me being in timeout, I should be in. But there's three referees, and at that point in time, they're down on the other end. And I don't know if I could have done that, but those are the ones that bother you. The tough breaks, the injuries, the matchups, that's part of it. But and I think officiating the game's hard, but I don't think it's hard to officiate a 5 second count out of bounds. I don't. I don't. I think that's just a matter of knowing how to chop your hand, right?
So you brought it up. Coach's Challenge is being thrown in this year. They've talked about quarters, halves. We're still probably 2 years away from that happening. I'm curious what you think of the Coach Challenge, which will be in, and then at some point maybe quarters over halves.
Well, again, I was on the rules committee, and Andy, we talked about it in depth for you every year I was on there. And at the time, we did experiment with it in the NIT, if everybody remembers. And what they found out was the men's game ended up being, I think, somewhere between 8 and 10 minutes longer. And it goes back to, you're a TV guy, you know this. They want those games over in 2 hours, if
Yep.
possible. And at the time, I think we'd gotten our game down to about somewhere between 156 and 158 to somewhere in there, which is what TV wants. So in the NIT, when they did it, I just remember they experimented with it, trying to get all the same content that they had to get in, and it took the game to somewhere, I'm gonna say 2-8 to 210. And so obviously at the time they weren't willing to make that move. So I don't know where they are on that now. Do I think it matters? I mean, I think everything is about that 2 hour time frame, because I used to get upset. We worked so hard. What's the difference in 6, 7 minutes to get it right? Like, I was a big proponent of, checking goaltends. I never understood why you check a 3 point shot where 1 point makes a difference, and a goaltend where 2 points. I
Yep.
never understood that. And we got that rule in, but I think that comes out now with a challenge, because they said it wasn't the numbers, the percentages, but uh, I I don't know where I am on it, to be honest with you. I'll tell you another rule discussion we had, about moving the ball to half court.
Yep.
We discussed it forever. And everybody says, well, it's good for the game. And there's obviously people in the room. Uh, and I'll tell you, personally, my position was I didn't really care one way or the other, because I've been where you have to adapt all the time. But there were some guys in the room that were adamant, some guys that weren't so much. And the guys that were against it, why do we change the way we play in the last 2 minutes to help the offense? And then I'm going to tell you what really hit home with everybody. So someone brought up, we were talking about, said, let's just say the ball is already in the front court. And the guy said, and let's say I have a timeout left. Can I use my timeout to move you back to full court? Pretty good point.
Yes.
But the point was, what's good for the fans? Well, it depends on what side you're sitting on, right? So I don't think we should be like, I don't think we want to be like the NBA game. I don't think we can be like the NBA game. They got the best players in the world. They can do things that our guys can't do, consistently. And I mean, again, they play 48 minutes, we play 40, they get their game through quicker. I mean, think about that. I mean, and the question is, how does that happen? How does it happen? But the fact is, whatever those rules are, and you and I've been in this about the same amount of time. We've seen change in every part of it. It just keeps working, and I'm all for trying to make the game better. But what will it or won't, I don't know. All I know, if they do it and it doesn't work, they can always go back or vice versa.
Talking about being in the game a long time, you've coached in some great leagues, the best in the country. Um, and this was arguably the best SEC, at least in terms of number of teams getting in the tournament, 14 in the SEC. It could be somewhere in that same ballpark again this upcoming season. What was it like to go through that grind in the SEC?
When you think back, I mean, you know the old Big East at times it was back, especially when we had 15 players. And remember the year we went to six fouls? Now,
Yep.
that was a grind. That was a grind. People have no idea. That was I'll bet you those games were well over 2 hours, right? Uh, ACC, they've always had some good runs with it, but you know what? The difference 11 years ago when I came into this league, being at the very first meeting, SEC meeting, Greg Sankey's first year, he came in and he spoke about the league as a whole, how every other sport had done extremely well, but basketball had been the one lone sport. And I'm sitting there and I'm listening to him, and I know enough about this game, and you know this. Everybody can coach this game. I don't think I've ever out coached anybody. I've seen guys get fired who I thought were great coaches. Uh, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, it's not just the coaches. And he got on the coaches, and as you know, back in the day, the SEC was known as a league, they cheated. But here's what I found out my first year in the league. As a whole, the league didn't care much about basketball.
Yep.
They didn't. And I can attest to that by taking you around now and showing you the difference that facilities are in the league, locker rooms, all the little things. And
Non-conference scheduling.
yeah, all that. Because I would tell you, when I was at George Mason or anywhere, everybody thought you want to have a chance to get a big win early. Schedule an SEC school that normally doesn't draw well, because you go there in November, December, you might play in front of 2,000, 3,000 people. It's not going to be a big home court advantage, because other than the fact that they had SEC officials, right? But
Right.
but so I give Greg Sankey a lot of credit for putting the pressure, I think, on a number of different administrators to do the right thing, because now I think every school has worked hard to be good at it. And again, what was last year, I think the big success was we had so much retention with you're coming back with so many guys that had been through the league. I don't know if it'll. I know our retention is not the same, obviously, but you know what, Andy? Every year, I remember back when I started out in 1980, 78, 80, being in the old Southern Conference at Davidson College, going to UT Chattanooga or Marshall. Those places were hard to play. I go to the coaching in the Colonial. I mean, great coaches in that league. I mean, every league's hard. It is. It's just that, and what we're talking about here is the depth. What's the drop off between 1 and 10 or 1 and 12 or whatever? Obviously, last year there wasn't a big drop off. Even South Carolina, you go back and look, and Lamont does an incredible job. Vet had a couple breaks early. Who knows, right? But they had. It's just a very, very fine line. And but I am really proud, really, of the last 10 years in the league. Where, and again, I give Commissioner Sankey a lot of credit for making the point, and he made and he was right on with it. Our officiating now has become so much. I think we got the best officials in the country. I think Mike Eads does the best job. Dan Liebervich did an incredible job in his role when he left to go, back to the Big East. Garth Gleason has come in and just taken it all to a different level. And I think the SEC's here to stay. Obviously, I do. And but until we play them, I don't know how it's going to all play out. Because you and I have watched cycle, right?
Yep.
We've seen it all the cycle, and I would expect that too.
Last couple of very quick things for you. We talk about the non-conference schedule. Since you've been at Tennessee, you don't shy away from anyone, whether it's even scrimmages, exhibitions into the schedule. I saw just recently another game announced between Tennessee and Illinois. What do you have on tap? You got the players there. What do you got for non-conference?
Hey, let me tell you a quick story why. And it's not, you said Tennessee. If you go back and look from the time that I left Providence, Clemson, wherever I went, I promise you, we could have, over my time in coaching, we could have scheduled 100 wins. I guarantee you, if we wanted to. I'm on the bus. We had just got beat in the Big East tournament. We were a team that weren't supposed to be in the NCAA tournament. We had fallen away to where we're right there on the bubble. And we went into the year knowing it was going to be a tough year. And we put together one of the worst schedules in America. Won every game. And but we get to, I can't remember if it was the semifinals or the quarterfinals, but Seton Hall, the year they went to the Final Four, they beat us. And after that game, Dave Gavitt, uh, Danny Gabb was on my staff, and Dave said, I got to get back to Providence. I'm going to ride back with you guys on the bus because he was working still with the NCAA committee. And right when we got back into Providence, right when we got back, we were on the front seat of the bus together. He said to me, are you prepared to tell your team your thoughts on it? They don't make the tournament tomorrow. And I looked at him, I said, are you telling me something that I don't know? He said, no, but I'm telling you, going in, it was close. But I said, well, why are you telling me this? He said, well, here's what I'm going to tell you. You have no say on who you play in conference play. You got every 100% to say on who you play in non-league. And your non-league schedule will, if you don't get in, that's what kept you out. And he said, and only one person is to blame for that, and that's you. You put it together. And we didn't get in. We were the last team. We were the first team left out. And from that point on, I said, I will never, ever make that mistake again. We will never make that mistake again because our players worked too hard to do that. And so with that said, from that day on, we have always tried to play the best, toughest non-league schedule. It's getting harder because if everybody went to 20 conference games, these intersectional games would be almost impossible to put together. Right. But we want to keep doing it. And
you got players there. You got Illinois. What else is locked in?
Louisville here.
Okay.
I mean, they've done a great job at Louisville last year, and he's done a great job recruiting. So that game's here. And man, and it's July. I don't even want to think about those games.
All right, last thing for you. Get you out of here. Your peers, you look great, by the way. Your peers, they're all retiring, even younger. Jay Wright. But you're going strong. No sign. Why?
Well, you know what, Andy? Again, if you want to be transparent, I think that God has a plan for all of us. I think He had a plan for me to be fired at Tennessee to bring me here. Okay. And I will say this, there is no doubt in my mind that God's going to make it perfectly clear to me when my time is done. I mean, I've got, I think, the best situation of any coach in America. University of Tennessee right now has got the best leadership from the very top all the way down. I think I'm working for the best athletics director in the country. They've done everything they can to help us here. I think this is still one of the most underrated programs in the country. I think it's as orange-blooded as blue-blooded can be, is what I would say. And I still love, when I hang up with you here, we're going to get out and I'm excited about practice, been thinking about it since yesterday's practice. I love the group of guys that we have. But I'll tell you this. I'll tell you exactly what I tell my coaches. I want to make sure that we get good enough players that we can compete every year because this university, this state, our fan base deserve that. If I don't think we're doing that, I think that would be my answer. It's time to get away from it.
Rick, always appreciate you.
Same here, brother. Love you. Okay. Good to see you. You look good too, by the way.
Thank you. Trying.
Lord to you.
All right, be well. Thanks for watching and listening, everyone. And as always, you can follow all our social media content at The Sideline with a K. Our content appears on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and of course, YouTube, TikTok, X, and Instagram. Check out all the content at The Sideline with a K.